1.7 billion euros. This is the amount that PSG has spent since the Qatar investment group, headed by Nasser Al-Khelaifi, took over in 2011. A lot of disasters, drama and controversy in those 13 years, but it looks like they're finally starting to figure out the right way to the top of European football. And as much as you may find it hard to believe, PSG are right now a lot closer to the big objective than at any point in the last 13 years. And yeah, this isn't the usual clickbait video you see on the internet, and you'll find out by the end. So let's break it down. 1.7 billion really does sound like a big number, but how much is that on average per year? The answer is 130 million euros for the last 13 seasons. And it gets even worse when we compare this figure to some of the other big spenders, such as Man City and Chelsea. Well, over the same period, the citizens have spent almost 1.3 billion, while the Blues have hit the 1.2 billion mark. And now for the really surprising stat. Barcelona and Real Madrid, the two Spanish giants, two of the most successful clubs in history, have spent a third of PSG's investment over the last 13 years. 720 million for Barca and 350 million for Real Madrid. Can you believe it? Over the course of this era, yes, we really can call it an era at PSG, they began to attract some big names. Javier Pastore, Thiago Motta, Marco Verratti, Thiago Silva, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Blaise Matuidi, Ezekiel Lavezzi. These were the names that arrived in the first 2 summers after the takeover. Then of course, we move on to an even more memorable period, when PSG paid over 400 million euros in 12 months for Neymar and Kylian Mbappe, 2 transfers that are still the first and second most expensive in history. 7 years later, Paris Saint-Germain were stacked with superstars all over the pitch. The amount of talent that has passed through is simply staggering. Then, in 2021, you have the arrival of Messi, Sergio Ramos, and Gianluigi Donnarumma, who was voted best player at the Euros just a month before his arrival at the Parc des Princes. And yet, year after year, PSG failed to achieve their goal. The French title came almost effortlessly, but Nasser Al-Khelaifi's goal of lifting the Champions League trophy remained a distant dream. Even on the one occasion when PSG reached the final in 2020, they were beaten by Bayern Munich. I don't know about you, but isn't it a bit embarrassing to reach the final of the Champions League in the only year when the format was lighter and teams had to play one leg due to the COVID-19 pandemic? Also, no disrespect to Atlanta and Leipzig, but PSG definitely had it easy reaching the final that year. Anyway, with or without that clash with Bayern, Al-Khelaifi's era at PSG was a disaster, or at least the European part of it. That's why a change was needed. And a change came in the form of a mysterious interview the Qatari investor gave in 2022, following yet another dismal performance by PSG's star-studded squad. Dreams are one thing, reality is another. Perhaps we should change our slogan. Dream bigger is good, but today we must be realistic. We don't want flashy, bling-bling anymore. It's the end of the glitter. Those were the words that changed the whole background for PSG. Al-Khelaifi said no more big names, no more bling-bling, and he kept his word, selling Messi and Neymar in the same summer. In doing so, Nasser Al-Khelaifi has ushered in a new era for PSG, one that looks more promising than ever, even if some of you might not agree. But here's the burning question: how did it all start, and what was PSG's new slogan? Well, the answer to this is actually way closer than you think. It lies in PSG's nickname itself, Parisians. The owner wanted to overhaul the structure and bring in young, high-caliber players, but not those who would play for glory and personal benefit, but those who would be prepared to put their heart and passion into every game for the team. And the easiest way to do that was to bring in names that were easily associated with France and Paris, because PSG was the symbol of the country, and every French footballer who was talented enough was about to be given a chance to play there. That's why the club opted for French-born players, and 2 men who ticked all the boxes were Ousmane Dembele and Randal Kolo Muani. Muani has been one of the Bundesliga's most prolific strikers for Frankfurt, contributing with 37 goals and assists in the season prior to his arrival, while Dembele was finally getting the recognition he deserved at Barca. You may also recall how quickly he left Catalonia for Paris, with even then coach Xavi reportedly shocked by the news of Dembele's departure. And interestingly, they both have a lot in common with Paris, having been born super close to the city. Dembele in Vernon, some 70 kilometers away, while Kolo Muani first opened his eyes in the suburbs of Bondy, literally 20 minutes by car away from the centre of Paris. In addition to them, a number of other French players have joined the club, including Lucas Hernandez from Bayern Munich, Bradley Barcola from Lyon, and young academy prospect Warren Zaire-Emery, who, together with Barcola, is already having a crucial role in the team. Interestingly, in the 3 years since Nasser Al-Khelaifi's change of scenery, PSG have not bought a player over the age of 27, with Lucas Hernandez being the oldest to arrive in the last 3 summers. And alongside all the names mentioned above, there are other top players with high ceilings, such as Gonzalo Ramos, Joao Neves, and the 2 lesser known names who cost more than 40 million this summer, 19-year-old French winger Desiree Doué and Frankfurt centre-back Willian Poncho. A big hand in this came from Luis Campos, a man who plays the role of football advisor at PSG. He's been responsible for more or less every signing PSG had made since 2002, and interestingly, he arrived at the club literally days before the interview in which Al-Khelaifi stated that PSG will be a different club from now on. Most shockingly of all, he was the man behind the scenes who prevented PSG from winning the League One title twice in the last 10 years. First, he was part of AS Monaco when they were crowned champions in 2016-17, and then he moved to Lille to win the title again in 2020-21. And suddenly, with the new plan in place and ready to be executed better and better with each passing season, the news broke.
Let's get more now on this big breaking news that Kylian Mbappe will leave Paris Saint-Germain.
Just when everyone thought that the new era at PSG would be led by Kylian Mbappe, who was not only the team's talisman, but also the ultimate figurehead, the player who was already a legend in the hearts of the fans, announced that he would no longer be playing for the club. Of course, the management were aware of his wishes and were prepared for the post-Mbappe future. But from today's point of view, not only is the absence of the superstar not felt, but the whole atmosphere around the club, both on and off the pitch, is completely different. From a purely playing perspective, Paris Saint-Germain no longer feel like a club dependent on one man. PSG are now much more fluid and versatile, with coach Luis Enrique relying on a wide variety of players. He simply doesn't have a strict starting trio in attack, as evidenced by the fact that at the time of making this video, after the defeat to Atletico Madrid, PSG have 6 attackers who have played 300 minutes or more in League One, with Dembele and Barcola having the most influence. Another detail we cannot ignore is that PSG are now a team playing without the pressure and expectations. And the equation for that is simple. Fewer stars means less drama and controversy, which in turn leads to better understanding between the players and, most importantly, a happy dressing room with healthy competition. And this little thing was definitely not on the agenda when the stars were pulling the strings at the Parc des Princes. I could think of at least 2 occasions when PSG stars were fighting and arguing on the pitch. So yeah, all in all, with this new approach, PSG are finally a team that attracts some affection. I'm sure many of the haters the club has had over the last 13 years are now seeing them in a different light. Because let's be honest, PSG are already not the pay-to-win team we all knew them to be. They're bringing in young talent, investing wisely in the market, and something that many fans have been waiting for with great anticipation, the Parisians have finally come up with the idea of using their academy, which has been responsible for a lot of top but unused talent in recent years. Kingsley Coman is a PSG graduate, but has only played 4 senior games for the club. Christopher Nkunku also came through the academy, played 3 seasons as a rotational player, and was sold cheap to Leipzig for more than 20 million euros. And also, Xavi Simons, the Dutchman, is officially known as a Barcelona graduate, but the skillful midfielder is actually what he is right now thanks to PSG. A lot of people will say nothing good comes from PSG because they don't have big game players. Yes, at this point in time, these statements may have some validity as we see PSG struggle in the Champions League. They've taken just 4 points from a possible 12, and finishing in the top 8 is almost impossible. But we should also mention that PSG had the worst draw of all 36 teams in the competition. Let's face it, I think even the big guns would struggle to have Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man City, as well as last season's sensations Girona and Dutch champions PSV, all in one Champions League campaign. But the fact remains that PSG is certainly on the right track. And with this new approach, they're a lot closer to breaking the curse than they were with the dream big mentality. Yes, they have failed, and failed repeatedly, but they've started from scratch, and as the old saying goes, better late than never. Watch out Europe. We're pretty interested to hear your thoughts on PSG's future, so don't hesitate to voice them in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, or just go and check out some of our latest analysis. So for now guys, catch you in the next one. Take care.